Well, let's talk about what voters are talking about. There's anxiety on multiple fronts as the cost of living, rising interest rates, the collapse of Western world order. That apparently is on the minds of voters this week. Joining me live now is Redbridge Group Director Simon Welsh. Simon, great to see you once again. You've been conducting focus groups this week. A very interesting week to do it, no doubt. What have voters been telling you?
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Yeah, it's really interesting. There is what I would call a qualitative difference in what we're seeing post-Christmas to what we were seeing pre-Christmas. And it's this pervasive sense of just anxiety at the world unraveling. I know you and I have sort of talked about this before, but there's something different. It's hard to put your finger on, but you kind of know it when you see it, when you're talking to folk. And it's about Bondi. It's about the economic condition and particularly the impact of the latest interest rate rise, which people had sort of put in their brains of, well, at least the worst of that is behind us. Things might not be great. There's a whole bunch of other things to be worried about, but at least the worst of that's behind us. This has come back as a reminder that it isn't, and there's still potentially a long way to go. So that sort of raised up the sort of stakes economically for people as well. But the other thing that's really interesting, I think, that has taken off, particularly this side of Christmas, is Trump, what we're seeing in America with ICE and what we're seeing with things like the Epstein files and those sorts of things, to the point that it's now not just in the focus groups that people are talking to us about this, we are seeing it reflected in our quantitative work as well. When people ask people what are the things that they're worried about, those sorts of issues are ranking highly. And so it's all just sort of feeding into this mix of uncertainty, what's the fear and doubt, fear, uncertainty and doubt about the future. And in the absence of anything really that's coming from the political side to address those concerns, to offer hope, to offer some optimism. A lot of what we're getting on the political side at the moment is sort of more of that fear and uncertainty of doubt with, political institutions collapsing and those sorts of things. And while, we might not be talking necessarily about Liberal voters only here, we're talking about both sides, but the signal that is coming through is that all these things that have been so stable for so long are starting to unfold, and there's this great sense of unfolding across the community. There is, as I say, there's something different happening this side of Christmas.
Yeah, and we see it in the numbers as well, with One Nation shooting up Newspoll had them at 27%. Labor, a bit of bark has come off as well. The big story, of course, is the Liberal Party and the National Party. We know why that is. But when you've spoken in these focus groups, what can you garner from that? Why are people turning to One Nation? Is it just a parking of their vote, or is it something more?
Yeah, it's the political reaction to this uncertainty, this anxiety we're seeing, and this sort of, and particularly on the One Nation front, this deep loss of faith in the economic promise, that aspirational, individual aspirational promise that particularly the Liberal Party has traded on for so many years. So it's the great example. We have seen on the right what this kind of uncertainty and anxiety can produce, and it's absolutely driving this One Nation vote. And I think, as you and I spoke about last week, it's there on the left, but it hasn't landed in that party political vein yet because it doesn't have anywhere to go. But yeah, it's all the same crisis. It is this crisis of it's economic, it's social, it's global.
So what can you garner whether you think some of this vote is permanent or just parked?
That's a really interesting question. My gut feel is that I think this is a more permanent. It's hard to say. Making predictions makes fools of everyone in politics, but it's certainly not a protest vote, which is what gives me a feeling that it is a bit more permanent than some sort of, look, we're just going to send a signal and the next election we'll come home having sent our signal. I think it is more permanent. And I think it is more permanent because it is speaking to these deep anxieties that people have about their lives, about their future, about their kids' future. These are pretty powerful forces that are being unleashed, and a political class that really hasn't provided answers to them.
No, they haven't. We'll see what happens this week as well. Simon, we'll leave it there. Always good to talk to you. Thanks for checking in. I appreciate it.